Hi, and welcome to Northwest Book Talk. I'm your host, Patty Brasher, and today we're joined by award-winning author Dawn Shipman, who's been writing since high school, and she says she's never looked back. So, from magazine features to plays and now gripping novels, she blends curiosity, creativity, and a love of storytelling into everything she does. And she lives, of course, in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. So, welcome, Dawn, to our program.
It's so great to be here, Patty. I'm really excited to meet you all and your listeners.
So let's talk about your books. You have magic, you have fantasy, and yet you weave it all into a really good story, but it also feels like it's almost epic in historically. You know, you've really written it so well, I think, in my opinion. So tell me, how did you get started writing fantasy?
Well, pretty much the way many of us do, reading The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings when I was young, and just being so gripped by that world and the possibilities of such things. So, yeah, that's how I was writing other things, and it wasn't going well, and I wasn't enjoying it, so I decided to try this.
So you said you've been writing since high school. So let's go back to your writing journey, how you got started with the love of writing.
Well, it started pretty much with my dad, who read us, to me and my two sisters. He didn't read us stories, he told us stories, bedtime stories, and he just made them up, and they were all wilderness things off in the deep north and such things. And so I loved story before I ever got to school. And then once I got to school, I discovered the library and just got into the books of the library, and I've just been an avid reader ever since then.
Okay, I'm going to say, what was one of your first published pieces?
Oh my goodness. I started off in, maybe people aren't aware of this, but I started off kind of in the inspirational market. Back when I was younger, a lot of church denominations had what they called Sunday school papers, and they would just hand them out to people, who attended. And I started off writing a few of those. And then I switched to horses. I've always been a horse lover, and was able to make some contacts in that world, and wrote a lot of articles for the equestrian division.
So how did you make that switch from religious writing to novels and fantasy?
It wasn't really a switch. It was more just kind of a transition. I've written a few of those recently. Well, I don't know, in the last few years, but I always wanted to write books. And then once I got into the book writing, there just really wasn't a lot of time for anything else.
Okay, so let's talk a bit about your writing process. You said there's not time for much else. Your books are superly well written, so just what goes into getting it to that stage?
Well, I'm sure you've talked to very many writers. We're kind of divided into the pantsers versus plotters division. The plotters are the ones who outline everything out and then go from there, and the pantsers just start and see what happens. I'm more or less that pantser, by the seat of the pants writer. I just have an idea, and I like these characters that somehow have appeared in my mind, and I start writing their story, and I kind of see what happens.
So what happened to that, your first book, right? So you wrote it as a pantser. Then what's the process after that first draft? What's your in-depth process?
Well, what happens is you start off that way, or I did anyway, and then I've gotten maybe a couple chapters, and this is all great, and I'm like, well, something needs to happen. Something needs to happen here. So then I go back and start rethinking and what can happen, and what characters could I put in here to make this happen. So it's just kind of it just kind of feel your way along. But then as I got seriously into it, and people were saying, I had a critique group I was in, they're like, okay, well, we need to know, they just encouraged me. And so I did end up sitting down and kind of outlining some of the rest. Not specific, but okay, I know this needs to happen, and that needs to happen, and that needs to happen. And then sometimes I would start writing those things, and what I thought would happen just doesn't work. So then you have to get rid of that and start again. And so in other words, it takes me a long time to finish books.
Well, I can imagine. So tell me a little bit about your critique readers. Is that a group that you've been with for a while?
It is. I live in I live up in Longview, Washington, and my critique partners, my main, is in Sherwood, Oregon. So once a month, there are several of us others in Washington, but once a month we would drive down and meet at this gal's house, and she is a multi-published author, and she's just been so gracious and helpful. And we all bring what we brought, and we actually send it to each other ahead of time online, and we make the critiques, and then we get together and talk about it. And they've been so very helpful over the years.
I'm wondering, because I haven't really worked with critique readers. So how do you deal with that, with the critique that you don't like, or that you kind of find baffling, or something that doesn't resonate with you?
The first thing is, if only one person says it, I take it into mind and I think, and I give it some thought. But if there's, and if I like what they said, then I will try to make the adjustments. If I don't, I just set it aside. But if I get 2 or 3 people saying it, then I know that they're seeing something that I'm missing. And so then I will go back and rewrite and bring it back to them and show them. But I've been in a lot of different critique groups, and some of them are a lot more helpful than others. And this one was very helpful. Some people way ahead of me in the writing process, and some with me or behind me. But that's how I do it. And there are some things that you just have to believe in what you're doing to stick with it. Unless, if a bunch of them are saying it, then you assume if you ever get published, your readers will also not like that part. So maybe you better give it some thought.
Okay, so once you have basically written the book, I don't know, and then edited it, do you have a final editor, proofers? What's your steps for getting it to the published state?
Because I did so much article writing for a number of years, I got pretty good at editing. So I'm a pretty decent editor. So I do a lot of it myself. Then the critique partners, the critique group would help with that, and I would always go back and edit after that. And when I was still thinking I might independently publish, I know I had been told that you've got to put money into 2 things if you're going to indie publish. 1, you got to get a good cover, and 2, you need to pay for a professional editor. And with my first book, I sold a house, and I told my husband, okay, those are the 2 things I want. And I paid for a developmental editor for the first book, for the one you just finished reading. Excuse me. And she was phenomenal. She was absolutely phenomenal. She saw things that I didn't see at all, and my critique partners had missed, because it was like several months apart, and they're not going to remember what I said, in chapter 2 when they're up in chapter 10. And I just learned so much from her, so that was great. And then I was fortunate enough to actually be picked up by a publishing company. So I am published. They have their editors too.
So how did you get picked up? How did that magic happen?
Oh, and it was magic. Oh my goodness. It was just crazy. When I said the part about I've never looked back there with my writing, I have. When I was writing other things, I got very discouraged and distressed years and years ago. And I just thought I was going to quit. But then once I started with the fantasy and this particular world and these characters, that's the part I've never looked back on. It's just been so fun. So I was working on those. And I ran in, I had a friend who just said, oh, I used to work at, I couldn't believe this, I used to work for, now I'm going to forget the name of it, the company that used to publish all the things for kids in school. Anyway, it's a big company.
Scholastic?
Scholastic, it was Scholastic, thank you, and it starts with an S, Scholastic. And she read my book, and she's like, Dawn, you need to get this out. And I'm like, okay. And I thought, well, she probably knows. She's read a lot of books in her job for Scholastic. So at that point, I started thinking, okay, and I didn't want to independently publish. I'm not techie. And to be honest, there was a part of me that really wanted somebody else, like a professional, to say, yes, this is good enough and we'll publish it for you. That was just me. Everyone's different. So I started looking, and I didn't know, and then I heard someone talk about this group I'd never heard of, this publishing company, and I thought, wonder what that is. And then the next week, one of my people from the critique group said, Dawn, have you seen this thing from Elk Lake Publishers? And that's who I just heard about on the conference that I'd been listening in on. And I go, no. She goes, they're looking for just what you're writing. And I go, huh, well, that's interesting. And I'm still just kind of, And then at the end of the week, another critique partner, without even talking to the first one, said, Dawn, I just saw this. You need to contact these people. So all of a sudden, in 1 week, I had 3 different pointing me in that direction. I said, I guess I better do that. So I did. And they made me jump through a lot of hoops. They made me jump through hoops. And I was kind of I don't know, it was kind of scary. But I finally got it all out to them. Okay, I think this is it. And it was the craziest thing because I sent it to them late. I sent it to them on a Sunday morning at about 1 a.m. our time. And I thought, well, they're not going to even see it until Monday. So, no, by the next day, like at noon, I had a response from them and they had offered me a contract. And then at that point, I thought, this can't be real. This can't be real. They haven't even had time to look at it. It's not even, I found out how that worked later. But yeah, I guess it was just meant to be.
Yeah, I think that is like we said, magic. But I know just from reading it, of course, it's a final version, but it is great. It's something that grabs you from page 1 and it keeps going, and you just do an awesome job. I mean, I would hardly know. I'm just reading your first book. I would hardly know that was your first book. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and let's get into some more of your writing journeys.
The Columbian in Southwest Washington continues to offer the most comprehensive and consistent coverage of our region and our people, despite the challenges faced by local newspapers nationwide. Valued donations to our community-funded journalism project via the Local Media Foundation pays for local reporters to provide expanded and in-depth coverage of key local issues in print and online, including homelessness, transportation, and the environment. For the most thorough daily coverage, visit Columbian.com. Please consider donating or subscribing today.
KXRW is supported by founding partners Morel Inc. Print and Marketing. Since 1993, Morel Inc. has offered high-quality, creative, and innovative solutions for their women-owned, union-staffed, state-of-the-art print shop. Morel Inc.'s experienced staff uses the latest technology to solve clients' marketing needs and within their budget. Find Morel Inc. at morelinc.com. That's MORELINK.com.
So welcome back to Northwest Book Talk. I'm your host, Patty Grasher, and I'm here today with Dawn Shipman, author of young adult fantasy series, The Lost Stones of Argonia. We continue our conversation. So let's get back into the magic of being published. So what was your journey after the book was accepted and you went through all the hoops? Then what happened when it was published? What was your adventure there?
Well, what I discovered as I was writing the book, I thought originally it would be 1 book. And then I kept writing and I thought, I think this is going to be 2 books. And then I kept writing some more and I thought, it needs to be 3 books. So it was just kind of funny. And they did offer me, the contract was for basically however many books were in that series. So I got going, and as with many, we hear a lot of these stories now, the timing being the way it is. But my first book came out in fall of 2021. Well, if you think back, we were still running wild with COVID. So that affected a lot of things. I had wanted to have a big in-person launch party and invite all my friends and everybody I could and feed them and do fun things and play games and do all that. Well, you couldn't do any of that. So I had to switch to, but you have to get the word out. So I switched to try to doing I did an online launch party and got through all the people I knew. And my husband is an IT guy, thank goodness. And so he was able to set me up. And so I was online and I had people all over the country, in Idaho and back in Missouri and Kansas and just all West Virginia and plus lots of locals that lined up, and we did it all online and played a little game, and I gave out giveaways, and it was great. And we set it out and Amazon had it and away we went. And so that's pretty much what happened.
Well, that's fascinating because I haven't talked to an author that's done an online launch like that. So can you expand more on that? Because I think our listeners would love to know how to do an online launch.
Well, there's different ways, and it's a lot easier now thanks to Zoom because, of course, during COVID, a lot of these things had to come into being. And Zoom is one of them. That's one I use frequently. And also, Facebook has their online things. You can do online deals on Facebook. I tried that. I did both. I really preferred going with Zoom later. Just everybody that was interested, I just said, this is, here's the link. Check in. This is, again, very funny. I'm sitting in my office, which is toward the front of our house, and my husband was back in his office in the back of the house, but he was all lined up. I had my personal tech committee right back there, making sure everything worked out, and people who were trying to get in could get in and such. So it was pretty fun. But yeah, that's how I did it, just through Zoom.
So how many people were involved? How many people signed up?
Oh, I think on that one, it wasn't tons, but I think there was like 20 or 25. I mean, my kids were involved and their spouses, and a good friend of mine in Idaho and her whole family showed up. And gal I'd there at a conference back in New York, she was there. And so it was about 20 or 25 people.
Well, that's great. So then you said the book took off, or how is it doing now?
Oh, I wouldn't say it took off. It's gotten some really good reviews. You know, I'm like a lot of authors that you're really hoping that maybe it'll really take off. But I think the last I heard was that there are 5,000 books a day are uploaded onto Amazon. 5,000 books a day, all year long. So it doesn't matter really, almost doesn't matter how good the book is. If people can't find it, they're never going to know. So, and I didn't realize I was going to have to advertise, and I was going to have to do this and that and the other thing. And, and I've learned it all slowly, one movement at a time. I've been involved in a large organization in Oregon for many years. And they, different ones there would kind of drop hints here and there. And I'd say, well, how do you do this? And they would give me ideas and such. And so I'm just kind of finding my way and doing the best I could.
So I think you're really good on social media. You're pretty constant getting your word out there. Do you find that effective, or what?
I'm not a super social media person. I got on Facebook right from the beginning because my daughter was still in college, and I wanted to keep track of her. Is that terrible? Okay, well, that's why I got involved in Facebook. But as I've gone along, yeah, I am very social myself. I like to see where people are and what's going on. But Facebook has worked for me, and Facebook's great for friends and family and for other things. It's not necessarily great, business, for that kind of thing. So I do have a Facebook author page, which is the business side of it. And so between the two, my personal site and my Facebook one and my author one, I try to get the word out. And I have a newsletter that I got started a couple years ago. And again, the writing is the easy part. It didn't seem like it at the time, but having to learn all of this stuff, all this tech stuff, and all this how to get a hold of people and this marketing, that's been a real trial for me.
Yeah, I think that is pretty much for every author. Even the ones that join a group, there's still a lot you've got to put your head into and try to make sense out of it all. So do you do any advertising, Facebook or other advertising?
I advertised on Amazon, and I took a class, an online class that was free, which was wonderful. And so I learned just enough to get my foot in the door. And so I have advertised on Amazon for probably a year. I don't put lots of money into it because I don't have lots of money. But my feeling is it's got to be out there. People have to at least see that cover when they're passing by, looking for hopefully other books that are like mine. They're wanting a young adult fantasy. Okay, well, hopefully mine will be on that list too, so they at least can have a chance of looking at it and seeing if it sounds good. And I've done some things on Facebook, not a lot. I've mostly just boosted some of the posts. The problem with this, and also because I am traditionally published, is I don't see the results of those things until months and months after it's happened. So when you're independent, which I'm considering for my next time, at least you can see right away, oh, I paid that much for that ad, and oh, look at there, I sold 10 books that day. Then it's working. But I'm still having a hard time with that.
So, what is there, just for my own interest? So, we're working with a publisher. Is there a minimum of how many books you need to be selling per book before so that they will keep you on? Do you know about that?
I do know about it. And my publisher, unless things change rapidly, hugely, they've pretty much told me they'll publish anything I write, which is wonderful. But it's also, it's like, yeah, but then I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do the other thing. So I don't know, but they've been awesome. They have been so good to work with, and they've been so kind to me, and I'm really thankful for them.
So also you do a lot of, it seems to me at least, that you do a lot of in-person events, or at least as many as you can fit in. So tell me about that.
Yeah. In fact, our publisher has told us that. She said, you're going to sell some through Amazon and such, and that's all well. But to be honest, you getting out and doing it yourself is what's going to sell books for you. So I try to do those as I can. It's really interesting because just I just put out my newsletter, and I've got 4 or 5 signings coming up just in the next 6 weeks. And that's way more than I've done before. And some signings you show up to and nobody comes, and you just sit there all day and you feel really bad. But I've had others when people have showed up and they've been excited and they're buying books and I'm signing them and, seeing my baby go out into the world and hoping lots of people like them.
So have you, from the first time that you went to a book event to like your latest one, what have you done that's kind of upped your game?
Well, when I first started, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just showed up with my books. But I do have a table. I don't have a table, but I could bring one if I had to. I usually just pay for a table or share one with someone at these events. And I've got a special, tablecloth and designs for how I display my books. And I've got a really cool poster I had made that looks like it came from the cover on my website. This gorgeous castle off in Germany that I guess people have been to, but anyway. So I just have my display, worked on my display. I got postcards made for the covers of all my books. And then on the back of the postcards, I got a stamp in a little thing, and I stamped my my website on that. So everyone who takes a card, one of my postcards that are free, I just give them away when people come to the book sales. They can track me down if they want to. The information's right there. So I try to do that because lots of times people come to those things and they're busy and they're already buying lots of books and they think, oh, this sounds interesting, but I don't have time. And so I've got those. And I've just come up with a new thing that I've made, a little crafty thing that I've made, and I'm really hoping that works out well. So I'm going to be using that at your Northwest Book Fair coming up. So.
Oh, good. So let me think. I had a question, then my brain went off on a little tangent. I want to talk about your newsletter. So tell us about your newsletter, how it got started, where you're at with it now, and what do you feel about having a newsletter?
Well, I have been told from many experts that the newsletter, a monthly or however often you send your newsletter out, is really the way to go, more than your advertising, a lot of different, or Facebook, different things, because honestly, Facebook, I've enjoyed Facebook, but they can decide, and Instagram and Book Talk or TikTok, they can all decide at any time they don't like you. They could, and then you're not there anymore, and all this effort you've gone to build up a readership is just taken away from you. So your email is yours. So I thought I got into that, and it's a way to connect with your readers. And that also has been hard for me. Again, not because, I can talk till I'm blue, everybody else is blue in the face and looking bored. But you need to find involving the techie stuff, getting the photos in there, and just it's been hard for me too. But I do like it, and I just keep at it. And it comes out about once a month. I don't have tons. I've got 330 newsletter readers now, and I'm at a 50% open rate, which people tell me is great. I don't think it sounds very good. 50%. That's all the ones that are reading my. After all the work I went to, that's all the ones reading it or opening it. But it's fun, and I have met some absolutely fascinating people via this. I put out little giveaways sometimes, and people will answer me, and I'll get talking to them. I have a gal who lives in Florida. She literally is a rocket engineer. I almost asked her if she works for NASA, but she's in Florida and she's not. And I'm like, really? How did you get my book? But, it's fun things like that.
Yeah, I think that would be fun to make that connection with all across the people. So let's, my final question for you is, what are you looking forward to for your next, are you working on a next book?
I am. The trilogy, the Lost Stones of Argonia trilogy, is complete in and of itself. But I feel like I left a few questions unanswered, and I think people will be fine. But I felt that way, so I'm writing a prequel to it. And I started it quite some time ago, right after the third book, Battle for the Crown, was finished. And I've been working on that, and that's gonna go back 1,000 years into this war that is often referred to in the new books, the later books. So I'm working on that, so hopefully that will get out there sometime soon. And I just got involved with a group over here in Oregon that is planning to put, a writers group that's planning to put together an anthology where all of us who are interested get to write short stories or little things there. I've agreed to do that, and I'm really excited about that. That's going to be really fun, working with other authors on putting one thing together for all of us.
Oh, that sounds really good. I think you're pretty amazing, because really your writing journey started in, at least publishing. The first one was in 2021?
The first book was, was in 2021.
Yeah. So I think you've done amazing. I think you're going full steam ahead on that. So
I'm trying.
Oh, I think you're doing very, very well. Well, thanks, Dawn, for joining with us, and I hope your journey keeps doubling and tripling until I think you're a fantastic writer. So I'm very glad to have you on the program.
Thank you so much. Very encouraging. Thank you.
You have been listening to Northwest Book Talk with Patty Grasher. KXRW 99.9, serving the Great Vancouver area. You can discover more about Dawn Shipman, her books and writing journey on northwestbooktalk.com. If you enjoy local radio shows such as this and would like to keep us on the air, please visit kxrw.fm and click on the donate button. To everyone listening, I'm Patty Grasher. Keep reading, keep writing, and keep supporting your local authors, bookstores, and libraries. Until next time, thanks for being part of the Northwest Book Talk community. Mark your calendar. The KXRW Northwest Book Fair is coming to Vancouver on Saturday, July 19th at the historic Fort Vancouver Artillery Barracks, and you are invited. Meet over 60 local authors, explore books for every age and interest, and enjoy free family fun, including face painting, balloon twisting, and hands-on workshops. Whether you are a reader, writer, or just looking for a great summer outing, the Northwest Book Fair is a celebration of books, community, and creativity. Admission is free, and there's something for everyone. That's Saturday, July 19th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Fort Vancouver Artillery Barracks, just steps from Officers Row. Brought to you by KXRW 99.9 FM and local volunteers who believe in the power of books to bring people together. Learn more at kxrw.fm. That's kxrw.fm. Don't miss it.
If you're looking for pizza in East Vancouver, consider visiting Giuliano's Pizzeria in the Cascade Park Fishers Landing neighborhood. For 37 years, Giuliano's has been a choice for Clark County residents. Giuliano's has a casual classic rock atmosphere, open 7 days a week, and they provide table service allowing you to relax and enjoy your meal with family and friends. If you have a large crowd to feed, Giuliano's can deliver 6 or more extra large pizzas to your office or event. More information can be found at giulianospizza.com.